Welcome to the Call Before Showing podcast. I'm Alex.
And I'm Allison, and we're here to talk to you about the real ups and downs of being in the real estate business.
Let's get to it.
Let's do it.
Hey guys, let's just jump right in. Allison, what are we here to do today?
So today we're going to talk about a mid-year check-in. So we're just going to check in on how our goals are going for the year. And if you didn't hear our goals yet, you should go right on back to an episode called Real Estate Resolutions. And that will go over a little bit of what we had set for our goals for this year. So how are you doing on your goals this year so far, Alex? Do you want to start with personal and then go to business?
Yeah, I think we can start with personal. I'm going to try and remember what they were. An important thing to recognize when I'm thinking about this is that I feel good. Like I feel pretty happy with what's going on. I feel like I have a good balance of like being proud of what I've done so far while still being ambitious for the rest of the year. Oh my gosh, can I mention something that's been very heavy on my mind? And it has to do with this kind of goals checking in sort of thing.
Sure.
Something that I've struggled with a ton for most of my life is comparing myself to others. Especially in this like social media age, it is even more prominent in people. And I know like studies have been done about it as well. Now that you have access to like see so many people's perfectly curated lives, it can kind of make you feel like shit, right?
Yeah.
And so I definitely have had very low points where I've like compared myself to other people's situations and what I think their lives look like and all of that. And then recently I heard someone say this, and I don't think this is new, but I heard it for the first time. The only person you should compare yourself to is previous versions of yourself. Mm-hmm. Have you heard that?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It freaking hit me like a ton of bricks. And when I did that, I actually felt very proud of myself, which is not something I ever feel. I'm very hard on myself all the time. And so I did compare myself to where I was a year ago. Was actually pretty like blown away with the results. If I look at where I was exactly a year ago, I was living in a very small apartment, didn't have childcare yet, hadn't worked in 6 months, hadn't gotten a closing in Northern Virginia, felt like crap, like wasn't really eating well or working out. And then a year later, like I feel like my life has completely changed. I'm living in a house that I love. I feel like I have a good work-life balance. I am eating well and exercising regularly. But anyway, I just thought that that was a really good thing to like remember, and maybe everyone should do that for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is definitely helpful to look back a full year, as long as looking back a full year won't hurt your feelings. Like this time last year, I definitely had like less number of transactions in terms of like work related thing. I definitely think in my personal life I've improved myself year over year for sure. But in work, it's hard for me because I compare it to last year, and last year I had a lot more higher dollar transactions. So I felt like I had a better year, but this year I've worked with more people, lower price points. And so in some ways you can look at it like I've impacted more people and that's amazing. I've helped more people and that's amazing. But then I also feel like I'm on a hamster wheel in terms of finances. I'm in a great place and I love my clients from this year. And I feel like I have made an impact with them, which is great. But it's also one of those things where you're like, man, if I look at last year this time, I like almost made double the money by this point.
Yeah. When I look at that, I think of like, oh, wow, you've impacted that many more people and that's amazing. And I think in a situation like that, you can kind of either choose to see the glass as half full or half empty, you know?
Yeah.
Because there is, you know, it's like a very tangible number that you're looking at and saying like, oh, this is better, but this isn't as good. And I think the fact that you've had more clients is amazing, because imagine what next year is going to be like, you know?
Well, yeah. And I'm so thankful. It's just one of those things that it depends what thing you look at. Mm-hmm. It could either make you feel great or it could either make you feel like crap.
Yeah.
depending on how you look at
Yeah.
it. So
You can choose. I think you can find a victory in most things.
absolutely.
I think that you're doing great.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's been a really, really great year overall so far.
Better. I think it's been better than last year so far. Knock on wood.
Yeah. Don't fuck it up, 2019.
That's right. Don't let us down, man. So anyway, okay, so let's start back at the personal goals. I don't remember what my personal goals were.
Didn't you write them down in your bullet journal?
Bitch, you know everything.
This is why we have the podcast. I'm looking in my power sheets right now.
Oh my gosh, it's literally on the first page. Why are you such a genius? So I don't know what all I mentioned in the episode that we recorded about our goals, but I'm gonna hit a few of them. I did a personal category, a health category, a career category, and a recreation category. Let's start with recreation because that's more fun and can easily know what I've done there. I wanted to learn to knit, bake bread, and ride a bike. And West, drum roll please. I haven't done any of them.
Well, that's okay. We still have half of the year to go.
Yes, this is true. We do still have half the year to go. Or a little less than that. But I do have in here read 12 books, and I have read a lot more this year. So I am proud of that. I don't know exactly how many books I've read. I'd have to go back, but I think I've read like 5 or 6. So I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah,
I read City of Girls in a weekend.
Wow. I need to finish that one. I'm going to finish it on my ride up to DC.
Are you taking the train?
No, I'm driving.
Oh, are you listening to it?
I'm listening to it, yeah.
I was like, Alison, that's so dangerous. Okay, so did you have any recreation ones?
Not necessarily. One of mine was to set healthy technology and work boundaries, which I think has led to more recreation and more doing fun things.
What boundaries have you set?
I've started being better about not answering the phone at all times. If I'm at an event or something with Josh or doing something with Josh, I don't answer all the time. And that has been something because I'm like a people pleaser. And also I don't like it when other people don't answer the phone for me. But if you're calling me at 9:00 at night on a Saturday night and I'm with my husband, I'm not answering. I'm not leaving a party to talk to you.
Yeah.
It hasn't hurt my business. It hasn't hurt my clients.
Yeah. They'll be fine.
Yeah. Well, and usually it's other agents and they have lives too.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I've felt better about like not guilting myself for things like that.
Yeah.
And I call people back in a healthy amount of time. I think that definitely has led to more recreation in my life because like we'll go somewhere and do something and I actually can enjoy and be present.
Absolutely.
Rather than, it's no fun to be like answering work calls at a baseball game on a Saturday night.
No. There's nothing you could do at that baseball game to further that transaction.
Exactly. So I used to just leave anytime my phone rang, and I've been more selective with that.
That's so good.
In my life.
I'm so glad to hear that. I know that's something you were struggling with before.
Yeah.
That wasn't on my goals, the technology thing, but I have recently started doing this thing where I leave my phone in a different room, and it actually feels very liberating.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not doing this like on a weekday in the middle of the day. I'm doing this like on a Sunday night or, like I've realized since my son is getting a little bit older that there are times when I'm sitting there on my phone and he really wants my attention and he doesn't understand whether I am like on Instagram or whether I'm doing like an important work thing. Like all he sees is like, oh, she's choosing to do this thing like instead of hanging out with me. And so I've tried to be like more like aware of that and I kind of like it. I think honestly, I think that we have all gotten so addicted to our phones. Maybe this is just like an optimistic thing or wishful thinking, but I think that we're going to start seeing a transition into kind of like detoxing from all of the like technology overload, because we are the generation that kind of like lived through that transition of like not having iPhones or any of that to suddenly having all of it. And I think we've all overdosed on it. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. Think back to the times when we were growing up and the only phone was like the one that was attached to the wall.
Yeah.
And when it rang during dinner time, nobody answered.
Yeah.
And like, what a time to be alive.
Yeah.
Like, now we're retraining ourselves in some way to like almost recreate that.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I don't know, no, whoever is on the other side of the phone isn't going to be there for the rest of my life. It's either a client or another agent or whatever. And like, yes, I don't want to disappoint them, but I also don't want to disappoint my family or my husband or not have them at the end of the day because I've ruined it by
never being available,
being too addicted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that's really good. Let's see. I had on my personal goals that I wanted to have one self-care night a week. I started off strong with that. I'm no longer doing it. Not that I don't take care of myself, but at the beginning of the year, I was having like, I think it was Sunday nights, I was taking a bath, I was doing a face mask, I was like really just, having a glass of wine, like having like a special night to myself. And I don't know why I stopped doing it. So there's that. Do you have stuff like that? Well, you also have nights where like you have a lot of nights where Josh isn't there. Right. So are those your self-care nights?
Yeah, well, and I do kind of like built-in self-care that I can't avoid. Like I have that monthly massage membership, it's automatically scheduled. I go every month, and so that is something that I have all the time. But yeah, I don't have a self-care night every week or a self-care anything every week.
Yeah.
Other than like going to the gym.
Yeah, which is totally
which I
self-care.
love.
Oh my gosh.
Which I was doing 0 of last year.
Right, and it's
0.
so crazy how much it changes your mental health and like your happiness.
Like, I feel so much calmer. Mm-hmm. I feel like way less anxiety.
The hardest thing for me is actually like getting in the car and going.
Oh, definitely.
As soon as I get in the car, it's no problem. Like from that moment until the time that my workout is done, it's no problem at all. It's just getting in the car. And when I'm thinking about like, there's other things I could be doing or maybe I shouldn't go or whatever, I think like I am such a better family member when I have like taken that time for myself and just like sweat it out and just, it's really, really great. I'm glad we're both doing that. We should totally go do a class together when you're here. Allison's coming up in a week, and when you hear this, she will probably already have been here because we take a lot of time between recording and uploading.
Whoops.
But I'm so excited.
Not one of my goals from the beginning of the year was to start the podcast and do weekly episodes, which we're still working on that. We're going to figure that out. Yeah. But behind the scenes,
we've made some big changes that are going to make that a lot more possible.
Yeah, it felt like a lot in the busy season. So we're going to get back to there, guys, one day.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I don't think we're too far off from that. Gosh, this podcast has been such a cool thing to add to our lives.
Yeah, it's been fun.
So that's pretty great. My other personal ones were to pay off a certain amount of debt, which I have been doing very well. I'm very happy with where I'm at with that. I think that I'm going to be good for the year and stop buying unnecessary things. Now, depending on the week, the definition of unnecessary changes. So I don't know how well I'm doing with that. Did I need to buy a very cute leopard dress last week because it was on sale? Yeah, I think I did.
That was necessary.
It was very cute. I think this started last summer when we started to save for our house, for our second house, without me working. I think I've become such a more mindful spender.
Yeah. I didn't set any specific financial goals at the beginning of the year, I don't think, other than just being more intentional with the money that we spend. Mm-hmm. And I don't know that we're doing that great. I don't know that I'm doing that great. I'm sure Josh is doing much better, but...
Do you have like a itemized budget?
No. And we did say, I'm sure I said this in the podcast, that we wanted to start Dave Ramsey at some point in this year to like do the whole thing, like budget and whatever. And we have some home projects that we're working on. Basically, Dave Ramsey is like, you don't do any unnecessary spending. And we were like, well, this is necessary to do these projects around the house. And part of it is because we've been waiting and waiting and waiting to do them until we had money, and we have money to do it now, and we just need to do it. So once we're completely done with the patio that we just built, like we're going to be spending more time at home. We're going to be eating more at home. And so that's going to like help with the budget. But it also has been expensive and time consuming to build, but we're doing it ourselves and all that jazz. So I don't know.
I just want to show you really quick what I do. I don't know if you can see this, but this is literally what I do every time we get paid.
Okay.
It looks super sloppy, but it's very simple. It's literally starting balance, all of our expenses. I give us like an allowance for gas and transportation. I give us an allowance for, you know, like eating out or any of those things. And then what's left over at the end gets divided between a spending account and a savings account. And like that's something that you can totally do even if you do have big expenses.
And we do that. But we don't
do?
But we don't do we do it through like mint.com.
I felt like it was just tracking my stuff. I didn't feel like it was. Well, and sometimes they don't get like the retailers right. Do you have that problem? Like sometimes you'll spend money at Target and it'll be like, oh, $500 on groceries. And it's like, no, I was buying like furniture.
Yeah,
you know,
but we recategorize stuff and like we pay attention to it, but we don't like, we don't beat ourselves up if we like didn't hit it or whatever. And we're not very, like the numbers aren't that strict. Does that make sense? Like we're kind of like, eating out. Well, that's a lot of money, you know? Like we give ourselves too big of budgets. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, just like being aware of that stuff is good. And your backyard looks freaking
Oh my
gorgeous.
God, I can't wait till it's done. It's going to be so beautiful.
Yeah, I'm going to come and visit and I'm going to sit out there and I'm going to drink all of the cocktails.
Yes.
Can we hire a bartender? I can just bring West. He'll do it for us. He's a great bartender, by the way.
Great. Sounds good.
Except maybe he'll make us talk about the podcast the whole time.
Then it's a business expense.
Oh, that's right.
So then for work goals, did we say what our work numbers were? Did we say what we, in the podcast, do you remember?
I think we did. I'm just going to go ahead and say that I've met half of my goal because I don't remember exactly what we said, but I have a goal right here up on my wall and I'm halfway there. So that's good.
Cool.
I mean, not that I have a whole 6 months left to finish it, but I feel good about it, and I think it's going to be okay.
Well, and like at the end of the day, at the beginning of the year, we all set an arbitrary number of what we want to do. Yeah. And it's one of those things that throughout the year, you can kind of adjust it depending on what the situation is at that time.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and when I set my goal, it was very blind. And I think, as is the case, if it's your rookie year or if you've moved to a completely new place. And mine was like I'd moved to a completely new place and I suddenly had a completely different life and responsibility that like had to take a priority to work. And so I sat down. I remember sitting down with my coach and being like, I literally have no idea what goal to set. And he was like, okay, let's look at your like fountains of, or what do you call it? Your like avenues through which you're going to gain business. And let's just like see, okay, so you have like 5 different, or I think it's 4 different ways that you plan to get business this year. Let's say, what do you think this one's going to get you? Maybe 2 or 3, you know, like, and so that's kind of how we did it, which I guess is the best way to do it if you're going in blind. But I think next year I'll have a much better grasp of like what is possible. Like how you, because like this year you knew like, okay, last year I did this and I want to like increase it by this percentage.
Right.
Which is a lot more like tangible, like goal setting, I think.
Last year I set the goal of 18 at the beginning of the year. And I ended the year, and that's 18 transactions. I ended the year with 11 transactions, but I exceeded my monetary goal because the price points were higher than I originally expected them to be. So then this year I put my average sales price higher because I was like, oh, look at me. I can sell expensive
Yeah.
houses. And then this year I've had a lot of lower price transactions, which is great. Now I had to add more to my
Mm-hmm.
number. So I originally started the year wanting to do 18 transactions. And now I'm looking at, I probably want to do 20 transactions.
So I have a question. So when I did my 2017 goals, the formula that I used was basically I want to make X amount of money this year. And then I worked backwards from that. I said, okay, in order to do that at the average sales price that I'm used to, like how many deals would I have to get?
Mm-hmm.
And, so I worked backwards from the monetary goal. This year, I didn't do that at all. This year, we literally did what I just said, which was like, how many closings do you think you can get from each avenue? And then when I looked at that number, I said, okay, if it's an average sales price of such and such, I should be able to make this much. Which one do you do?
I did the monetary and working backwards.
Okay.
So like how much money do I want to make? How much in expenses do I think that I will spend for business expenses? So then add that to that number and then divide it by the average sales price times, what your normal commission amount would be.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I think both ways work, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think any way you set a goal would work.
As long as you're mindful of it. I think that's like the theme of
Right.
this.
As long as you're not just like, you know what, I want to do 55 transactions next year.
And then have no strategy. I think as long as you have a strategy.
Yeah. Okay. So then once I got to the number of transactions that I wanted to do, I set kind of what you were saying in which categories. So like how many open house leads do I want? Or
if I need this many closings because I want this dollar amount, then how many leads do I need from each of these categories?
Exactly. Yeah. So like how much am I going to get from my social media marketing? How much am I going to get from like any paid advertising I do? How much will I get from, if you do relocation or Zillow or whatever? And so I think I set it like 8 would come from my sphere, 4 would come from social media, 1 would come from like sitting duty, like duty shifts at my office, like opportunity time. Every office calls it different.
Yeah. We don't have that at our office. So maybe you should explain what it is for people that might not know.
So there are times during the day that you can sit the phone so that you can get any incoming leads that are coming from sign calls. And so every office does it a little bit different. And so if you sit the phones and a sign call comes in, you potentially get that lead. That's basically how it works.
Yeah. I don't know why we don't do it. I think it's just because like not that many people call in up here maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, not that many call in down here either.
Yeah. I remember when I was working at your office, it was like if you got a duty lead, it was like, whoa, you should go play a lotto ticket.
Yeah.
My avenues were social media, which I have not done well at all, but I just implemented a new situation starting next month where I think it'll be good. I have someone taking over my social media, so I'm excited about that. They're going to be posting consistently, which is just not been something that I've been good at. So I have social media, I have relocation, I have my sphere, and then I have farming project that I've been working on throughout the year.
Yeah.
I'm talking to you, audience. I wonder what yours are. We should put a question on a postcard thing on Instagram to find out, because I think that'd be really interesting. I said I was going to meditate, and I have done that exactly 0 times.
Really?
I
love meditating.
I need to just do it. It's like pulling teeth to get me to sit still for that long.
Well, I started going to acupuncture, and that's like you're required to lay still.
And you're doing sound baths? Have you also stopped shaving your legs?
No, I still shave my legs.
I stopped.
And I wash my hair. It's amazing. But I totally am turning hippie. But
I love that for you. I can't even express how much. When you told me you had gone to a sound bath, I was giddy. I've never been to one, but I'm just really glad that you have.
that was like good stuff. I'm going to go to more because it was amazing.
That's so wonderful. Well, when we have our call before showing retreat, we should do a sound bath.
Yes.
That'd be so cool.
Have we shared that we're thinking of doing a call before showing retreat? One day. That's a goal for 2020. That's going to be a goal for
next year, yeah. Absolutely. And we're trying to decide if we want to do something at the beginning of the year that's more winter themed, or if we want to do something at the end of summer that is more sunny themed. So if you have an opinion on that, holler at us.
Yeah, let us know.
Yeah, so I said I was going to meditate once a week. Didn't happen. I said I was going to exercise 3 times a week. I'm doing very well with that. I said I was going to take my vitamins, which I have been doing amazingly well at.
Look at you.
I take so many supplements. I hope they're not just all being peed out of my system. I hope it's doing something.
Yeah.
But I take like a skin one, a hair one, no one cares about this. We're going to cut this out. Never mind.
I don't know if you can hear it, but it's pouring right now.
Oh, okay.
It's raining
can hear that now, but like very faintly.
Okay.
And I said I was going to drink more water every day, which that goes in waves as well.
Killing it.
I mean, the exercising, I feel like that's a huge win.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think overall, we're kind of killing it in 2019.
Yeah. I think like our attitudes are just good right now.
I think so too.
You know, I think we're just happy. And I'm not sure what I would attribute it to, but I'm glad that we are.
Yeah. Mine is that like I'm meditating, I'm getting monthly massages, I'm going to acupuncture.
Yeah. I mean, that's amazing.
I had a hard spring and I like came out of it being like, what the hell am I doing? Yeah. And I think it led to a lot of like clarity of like what's actually important.
That's getting really loud.
Yeah, it's like really pouring. Not prepared for this.
So you came out of your spring funk and you were like, what the hell am I doing with my life?
Yeah. And I think I just like got I finished it. I got clarity on like what's actually important.
Yeah. So what's actually important? Taking care of yourself?
Yeah.
It's very important.
Because otherwise, like, I can't take care of anybody else unless I'm taking care of myself.
Absolutely.
It's like the whole, like, when you're on the airplane and you're supposed to, like, put on your mask before you can put on anybody else's mask. Yeah. Super important.
Yeah. So the last one is career. We talked about how we're doing with our transactions. So we're pretty much mostly through with career. I said that I was going to keep strict work hours.
How's that going? I don't think that exists.
It's hard. It's very, very hard. I have done a little bit of time blocking, which is really great, but I don't do it every day. Like that's what my good days look like, me doing time blocking, where I am going to sit down and work on this thing for 2 hours. And then I'm going to go, like do this other thing. And it's really structured. Do I come downstairs and start working at exactly 9 a.m. and then work until 4:30 and then go pick up my kid? No, I don't do that. I spend most of the time working.
Well, and you can't work the whole time ever. I mean, that's unrealistic.
You know what I have found is I don't give myself lunch breaks, which is weird because if I were at an office job, I would definitely be taking those.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually been like a negative health thing that I've been doing because I skip lunch most days and then I am like famished for dinner, and that's not a great situation.
Right.
And when I go grocery shopping or when I like meal plan, I have a list for like snacks to send Eddie to daycare with, and I have a list of things to send West to work with for lunch, and I never include myself on that list. Why? Isn't that weird?
That's rude. That's rude to yourself.
It is rude.
That is,
but I don't like, and it doesn't even like occur to me to add myself to the list. Very weird. That should be my second.
last week we went and bought popsicles because like it's been so freaking hot here. It's been like 100 degrees for the past 2 weeks. And we bought popsicles, and I've eaten the shit out of some popsicles.
Like fruit popsicles?
They're like the old school ones that were like in the pack, like the plastic things.
Like,
you know, like you cut off the top and
Otter
then you just like,
Pops?
no, they're just like straight up like popsicles that are like different colors, flavy ice.
You like
flavor
push
ice.
them up to the top.
Yeah,
those are just like Otter Pops, though, right?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
I think that's what they are. They have ones at Costco that are like adult ones, and they have like wine in them, but they're very sweet. If you like sweet stuff, then you'll like these. But for me, I had half of one, and like if I'm drinking like alcohol that's too sweet, it can start to give me a headache. So I handed it off to my mom.
Well, we're going off the rails now.
But hold on, one last thing. Speaking of popsicles.
But you should include yourself in the snack buying.
IKEA sells these very cheap popsicle molds for $3.
Oh yeah, I saw them the other day when we went to IKEA.
I have 2 sets of them. I put like iced tea or like a juice, like a organic juice from Trader Joe's in there. And that's what I make popsicles out of. And my kid loves them, and they're super refreshing, and they're not very sweet. And you can also put alcohol in them. So that's nice.
All right.
Who else wants to hear us talk about for when popsicles? I go there. Okay, so
the name of this podcast will be Mid-Year Check-In on Goals and Popsicle Conversation. Popsicles and goals.
Yes. So anyone out there that is struggling halfway through the year, you still have so much time. Well, I'm so proud of you. I think that we're doing really great. I would be lying if I said that this podcast didn't have something to do with my happiness. I just feel like it's such a great outlet. I never ever ever dread recording. Like I'm always so excited to record and to put out a new episode. And
editing, on the other hand, is not very fun.
Editing is something I dread sometimes. But once you get started, it's kind of hard to stop, right? Like you get really into it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Same. But yeah, I'm proud of us. I think we're doing great. And I'm so excited to see what the rest of this year holds for our personal lives, our work lives, and this little call before showing community.
Our podcast lives.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks so much for listening.
Thank you. Bye.